C4 だ。こいつならイチコロだ。いいぞ6号。
Working for the evil organization is our protagonist, who finds himself at the lowest rank despite being one of the original members. As he walks around flirting with girls, he ends up receiving a mission to destroy a kingdom on another planet. Although he goes into this world with evil thoughts, he ends up finding a new life within, making him reconsider his evil antics. Episode 1. Introduced is a virgin man who is told by two babes that he is going to be sent down to Earth as a spy. With him being called Agent 6, they demand he save the world, but he stops them in their place. He asks what he is even supposed to be doing, wondering who they are in the first place. He tells the girls that they are too hot for him to possibly leave them to go to Earth. This angers them, so they start preparing their powers, but he only continues roasting them. One of the girls then explains that he is needed to help them finish conquering the Earth. She then informs him that once he is done with this, he will be discarded. He thought that after he conquers the Earth, he would get tons of babes and build his harem, so he gets enraged. Eventually, after making some worthless attempts on the girls, they calm him down and bring him to meet with Lilith the Dark, one of the company's 3 leaders. She presents him with some machine that happens to be a teleportation machine. Included with this machine is a little girl named Alice to accompany him on his journeys. He wonders who this kid is, so he asks them what she is doing here, to which she stops him. She begins roasting him and informs him if he angers her, she will self-explode to destroy him. With this being said, Lilith informs him that she is a high-tech robot that will assist him in his journeys. On top of this, Lilith presents him with a wristband to summon any kind of weapon he might need to use. With their plan being to take over Earth by taking down various facilities, he realizes just how big of a job this is. The black-haired girl then tells him that she has known him since the start of the company, so she thinks of him as one of the leaders. He then informs her that, although he doesn't know whether he will succeed, he promises to come back in one piece. He also plans on giving her a report weekly to make sure that he is safe. With all this being said, he asks her if he can cop a feel before leaving, rushing up on her. Unsuspectingly, she smacks him back, forcing him to the machine. He then sits like a little boy and begins his teleportation alongside Alice. While the machine begins powering up, he wonders if there is any possibility for things to go wrong. Despite this, he knows that Lilith is a genius, so she surely wouldn't fail. He then asks what the chances are of him failing, so she informs him that she only tried this machine one other time. This makes him in fear of his life, so he asks to get out, but she presses the button anyways. This evaporates his body into the machine and causes him to cease to exist. When he wakes up, he finds himself falling 3,000 meters above the sky, causing him to think his life is done for. He asks Alice if she can help, so she magically pulls out a parachute. By using it, he saves himself and finds a town nearby after looking around. Upon landing, he tells Alice they should go back and yell at Lilith, but she informs him it takes a month before they can use the machine again. As he complains about his new life, she injects him with a downer, hoping he will shut up. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is your favorite Japanese cuisine? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now, back to the recap. It seems to work, so she begins explaining their mission to him, informing him they need to conquer the town first. He then considers using the wristband machine to summon something, but Alice tells him that it would just be a waste. She tells him that he needs something called evil points in order to summon anything, and with him having only a few, he can't summon anything special. On top of this, the more evil points one has, the higher rank they are, making it easier to get stronger. While they walk, and 6 complains he is approached by a bunch of dog-like monsters. They rush him and force him to jump off a cliff, using his gun to protect himself. Eventually, he gets overpowered by one of the monsters, so he begs Alice for help, knowing he will die without her help. Although she is hesitant to help the bastard at first, she eventually promises to help him in exchange for some evil points. He accepts, so she summons a shotgun using the points, saving them. They are then approached by a busty white-haired girl, asking what they are doing in her country. With him being unable to speak his language, he is unsure how to respond, so he asks Alice for help. She then sends him an interpretation of her speech, allowing them to understand her. Although he knows that she is saying he is still unable to speak, so Alice takes the lead. She explains that he is a high-ranking noble from another country who chased after her to help her. By using this fake story, she bamboozles the busty girl, eventually gaining enough trust to allow her to guide them to town. With her trust being gained, she introduces herself as Snow, the lead command of the nearby town. She welcomes them to town and thinks it must be fate for them to have met. Upon arriving, Six notices various old guys as guards, making him wonder why there are no other babes. He then notices a tank while walking through town, so he asks her about it. Apparently she thinks it's an ancient artifact that requires one to have powerful magic in order to use. Once he hears this, he imagines himself using the tank to cause an explosion, making him seem like a weirdo. They then head to the palace where they meet with the princess of the country. While they talk amongst each other, Snow demands they bow down, claiming the girl before them is the princess, Grace. Six, being a womanizer, refuses to bow down, thinking it would put him in a lower place than her. He then begins listening to her talk, imagining all of the lustful things he could do with her. Snow then explains why they are here, claiming Six was able to defeat all the monsters outside with ease. Upon hearing this, Grace asks them for help, informing Six that their land is surrounded by monsters. With the Demon King commanding them all, they are currently in dire need of help, causing Grace to beg for Six's help. This angers Snow, so she guides them back to their room while complaining about not getting as much attention. Alice quickly calms her down, informing her that if he defeats the monsters, then she will look good since she brought him here. Snow then reveals that her real plan is to use them to fight the monsters and take all the profit for herself. Six tells her that he will do it in exchange for her body, but she rejects his request, calling him an ugly bastard. As they walk, Alice notices some big cube in the middle of a garden, so she asks what it is. Snow has no clue what it is, but thinks it's another divine artifact, so she asks them if they know what it is. Alice then asks to fix it up, and she accepts, causing her to get excited, thinking it's some weapon of mass destruction. Eventually, Alice finishes fixing it, but it requires a new password to be used. Six immediately speaks up and resets it as Dick Festival, thinking that Grace will get embarrassed saying it to everyone else. Alice then tells him that she isn't the only noble, so it will probably be the king that has to say the password. With him setting the password as this with the intent to gain evil points, he shouts out how overjoyed he would be to hear Grace hear it. As he says this, she appears before him and gets enraged, tying him up and presenting him to the king. Here he learns of what happened, so he demands that Six be killed. Before he is, however, Grace asks him to let her deal with him, and he quickly accepts her request. This makes Alice realize that Grace is the real one running the country, seeing the king suck up to her. Grace then asks Six for his help in the matter, knowing they need to use the artifact in order to win the battle. With this being said, Six tells them that they should suck up to him already, but this only angers Snow. She tells him that she would never follow his orders, but he reminds her of when she told him she would take full responsibility if he does something out of place. After this matter is settled, Snow informs the two that they will work under their country as mercenaries along with her help to defeat the Demon King. She claims that she will lead them, but Alice talks back, claiming that Six is her boss. Episode 2. To start with his training, Six notices that all of the soldiers are old men or young girls. Apparently they had lost pretty much all of their other soldiers, causing the army to look so pitiful. She then presents Alice with a list of the soldiers, asking her to pick out which ones they want for their team. It doesn't take Six long to pick the two hottest girls out of the group, taking them only for their bodies. With the first girl being someone named Rose, an emo girl who is yet to hit adolescence. Six is forced to pull out his own emo side. Although she acted like a weirdo, she reveals the real reason she did that was because her grandfather told her. Six then asks about her powers, so she explains she can gain the power of anything strong she eats. She then sniffs around and notices that Six has some snacks on him. With them being so tasty, she tells him she will do anything he asks in exchange for it. Next up is a girl named Grim, another babe who happens to be in a wheelchair. Immediately, she asks Six if he is single, telling him nobody seems to want to date her. He introduces himself back to her as a single man ready to mingle, then moves on to asking about her powers. She claims to be a mage, informing him she can use the power of the undead. He asks if she is evil, so she decides to try and make it seem like she is, offering to let him see under her skirt. Without hesitation, he flicks it up and checks her out, telling her she is less thick than he thought. While the two of them argue, Snow informs Rose that she is in charge here, so they need to get to work. Six protests this, claiming he is the boss around here, telling her to stand down. Of course, she doesn't allow this to slide, so she asks him if he even has any experience in battle, informing him she has been a commander her whole life. This angers Six, so he runs up on her and begins groping her, earning himself more evil points. After this display, she becomes enraged, but thankfully in the nick of time Grace emerges, saving Six. He then explains what happened to her, and she asks him why he would do something so stupid. With Snow originally being a peasant, she worked her way up here, so she is a very serious person. She then informs Six that his room is finally ready, so she guides him there with Alice. Upon arriving, Six talks with Alcy about what to do, thinking the only thing that matters is getting evil points. The following day, they meet up with the others and prepare to take down a monster's base. Alice notices that they are just walking into the enemy's base, so she asks if this is her best strategy. Snow embarrassingly says it is, so Six informs her that he will take the lead here. He plans on destroying the monster's food supply, thinking that he will gain some merit by doing so. Once he says this, Rose asks if she can eat the food within the crates first, but he rejects her offer. Snow then asks to join in as well, telling him that she got demoted because of letting him in the castle. Not only did this happen, her salary got decreased, so she wants to help in any way she can. With this being said, Six then prepares his attack, taking out all the goblins, transferring the food. Once they are defeated, he kicks around the food like a menace, making him seem like a scumbag. After the battle is over, he tells Rose to go eat up so that they can burn it all as soon as they can. With this being said, she eats her fill, then roasts everything to get primed for eating. As she does this, a babe on a bird emerges before them, showing she won't let this slide. She introduces herself as Heine and asks what he is doing, but as she does, Six jumps around her taking photos. She claims that because he attacked her food, he is clearly a bastard, so he must die. As she talks, Six completely ignores her, asking Alice if he could enslave her. Once he says this, she offers him a role in the demon army, recognizing how evil he really is. He considers accepting it, but Alice stops him before he can. With them clearly being on opposite sides, they begin fighting, Heine starting with her fire magic. He dodges, then calls for the others to help him, but they show no help whatsoever. After realizing his companions are useless, he enters the battle, facing off against her and her bird at the same time. As the battle goes on, Alice eventually helps, shooting the bird in the face with a gun. This makes Heine wonder how she is so strong. Finally realizing this is a dire situation, because of this, she calls for another demon to pull up, this time it being some big, bulky man. Instantly, he kills Grim, showing no remorse for human life. He asks Heine why she is playing around with the humans, thus causing her to leave embarrassingly. Now with just the bulky demon, Gattlecan before them, they wonder if they stand a chance against him. He starts by swinging his club, but this time the others join in to help make him on the defensive. As they continue launching attacks, the only thing Six can think of is Grim. He wishes to have known more about her, thinking he would have a chance at losing his V card with her on his team. These emotions turn into anger, so he rushes the demon, but is once again interrupted in battle. Some random monster approaches him and informs him that he is needed elsewhere, so he runs off. With the threats gone, he considers holding a funeral for Grim, but Snow informs him she would die from something like that. Because she is a priest of the undead god, she will come back to live, no matter how many times she dies. Following this, they head to the undead god's temple, placing Grim on an altar. Upon doing so, Snow explains that they just need to put some junk on it for it to work. They then leave thinking she will be all right, but Six decides to stick around. He still feels bad about the whole situation, wondering if she really will come back to life. Then, as he sits around sadly, she revives, asking him why he is here. He informs her that he felt bad for her, so he decided to stick around in her stead. This makes her happy, so she thanks him, claiming nobody has ever helped her like this before. With her being overjoyed, she asks him out on a date, to which he accepts, of course. He then uses her wheelchair as a vehicle, passing the desert with ease. They eventually arrive back at the town, and Six decides to ruin every couple's chances at being together. Eventually, they are spotted by a female soldier, so they decide to assault her for no reason. Grim uses her power to play around with the girl, making her realize she isn't messing with just anybody. In exchange for this power, she gets cursed with various things like her being in a wheelchair. He assumes it's because her legs are broken, but she tells him that she just can't wear shoes. The soldier laughs at her useless power, so this angers her into using another spell. Somehow she uses it on herself and ends up falling out of the wheelchair, revealing a bit of herself again. Episode 3. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the king learns that the demon army has retreated. They wonder why this all happened, but as they talk of it, Six barges into the room. He informs them that it's all thanks to him that the demon army retreated, claiming that he destroyed all of the supply trains, thus forcing them to retread. He explains that he was responsible for saving them, so he demands one of the generals to bow down to him. He does, and the king and princess both thank him for his efforts. They consider him as one of the chosen ones, claiming that years back they received a prophecy that one day someone would come to save them. Six assumes that it is him, so he pulls out his hand with a bruise on it. He thinks that this is a sign of him being the hero, but Grace informs him it's actually a deadly disease. He realizes that it's thanks to the chip that Alice implemented in his hand. Despite this, he still assumes he is the hero, but Grace quickly shuts him down, informing him her brother, the prince, already has the crest, making him the hero. With this knowledge, he goes about the day in a bad mood, eventually finding Alice tormenting Rose. Alice explains that she wants to force Rose to eat various monsters, including a grasshopper. She tries to resist it, but Six joins in as well, holding her down and forcing her to eat the grasshopper. Although she resists when Alice presents something to increase her bust, she reconsiders. Eventually, she breaks out and causes Six to ask her what her real purpose is. He tells her that she could easily become much stronger if she wished, so there is no reason to be in his dumpy squad. She then begins blabbering about her backstory, telling him she was found in some tube by an old guy. He then began feeding her monster pieces and gave her the ability to learn their skills. After hearing all of this, Six realizes the old guy must have had perverted goals, so he decides to take Rose in officially. She wonders what they mean, thinking she was already in the group, but he thinks differently. He puts some badge on her, inducting her into their otherworldly company. Meanwhile, Grimm is seen talking about her future, wishing to one day get married to Six. Later that night, before heading to bed, Six sits around thinking about this world. He wonders why nobody is falling in love with him, thinking that it would have happened already since he saved the country. He talks about all the girls he has encountered and wonders when he will get some kind of action. After he says all of this, Alice grabs his hand and places it on her flat chest, hoping it will alleviate his lust. He tells her that it's not enough, so he begins screaming about girls that are actually hot. Snow overhears all of this and tells him to be quiet, informing him he is needed by the king. After he hears this, he heads to the meeting place, where he finds all the generals talking about how they need his help. As they talk, they reveal that there is an item needed to win the war within some tower. While most people agree thinking it's needed, one of the other generals asks what the treasure even is. The man explains that it's a valuable treasure, ignoring his question entirely. They then ask Six what he thinks of this plan, hoping he has some insight. Six tells them they should just burn the tower down so they can avoid any issues. Although this method seems a bit sketchy, they know if they smoked out all of the monsters it would be easy. Regardless, they think it would be dishonorable to do so. They decide to just send all the soldiers into battle. While this happens, Six decides to just sit around and wait for them to all die, claiming it'll be easier once they are all gone. This angers Snow, so she claims that she will get some glory by defeating the strongest monsters within the tower. As she walks over, Six shares that she will come back eventually once she gets tired. Just like he said, later that night she comes back in shambles, asking what he is doing. He then points to Grimm and reveals that she is having a wet dream. He asks her if she wants to watch too, but she has other plans, shaking her rapidly. She wakes Grimm up, so Six finally decides it's time to get into the action. He starts by getting Alice to place some holes into the wall, showing that he plans on climbing it from the outside. While all the soldiers fight with their lives on the line, Six just climbs up on the outside, hoping to steal all the glory. Eventually, after almost getting to the top, Snow reveals that she is about to fall. With her being too tired to keep going, she asks Six what to do. As she talks, she loses her grip and falls, forcing Six to place her on his back. With her breasts squeezing against his back, he climbs up with more strength than ever before. Eventually, after a full night of climbing, they arrive at the top and sneak past the demons to get a surprise attack. As they do this, the demons talk about how easy the humans are to fight, claiming they stand no chance. Six then kicks one of the edges, making them only have to deal with one of the monsters. As he hangs on the edge, Six tells Alice to throw some rocks at the one hanging on the edge. With this plan in motion, he asks the other demon what it plans on doing. Because it has no other option, it takes the hits, directly leaving the other demon to get back up to the top. Upon arriving at the top, it prepares to attack Six, but he uses its life against it. He tells the demon he will kill his brother for good, unless he submits to him without putting up a fight. This forces the demon to admit its defeat, allowing Six to steal the treasure without even raising a finger. Later that night, Snow enters Six's room, presenting him with a large bag of money for his efforts. Upon receiving this money, he thinks it would be better to just leave the company he works for, claiming he never received this much money before. Episode 4. With him achieving such feats, he receives thanks by the generals. Although he has helped them a lot in recent events, they still need his help, asking him to go out on a mission yet again. He tries to deny their request at first, but when Snow reminds him of all the money and fame they can get, he decides to agree. With their mission this time around being leading a large army, Snow gets all pumped up. While most people are ready, Grim sleeps in, forcing Snow to knock her down in anger. Alice then tells Six that they should be prepared to fight, considering it's likely that one of the 4 generals appears on the battlefield. He makes sure to tell them that this could be a trap, the sketchy strategist being someone he can't trust. Then suddenly Hina appears with her demon army, ready to take Six down for good this time. Upon seeing her forces, they get scared but soon get ready for battle when they start charging them. The demon army then splits up, causing the various captains to claim certain armies. While they take the smaller forces, they are tasked with fighting against Hina, her being the strongest of the forces. Six then sends the girls to fight the underlings, leaving himself with the golem to fight. Snow then meets Hina on the battlefield, claiming that she will easily defeat her with her new weapon she took a 3-year loan out to buy. Meanwhile, Six runs for his life, trying to take the golem down with his Glock. With it doing no damage at all, he runs for his life, ordering Grim to wake up. Despite his efforts to wake her, she doesn't budge, so he resorts to asking Alice for help. She decides to use his bracelet to summon some grenades, thinking they will help Six. He doesn't like to use such schemy methods, though, so he punches the golem but only ends up hurting himself. He thinks it did no damage, but it actually ended up creating a small hole in its chest. Upon noticing this, he follows his attack with a kick, but yet again it withstands the attack, forcing him into a pickle. As the golem begins crushing him to death, Six is forced to release his full powers. By tapping into his innate strength, he releases his restrictions and is able to overpower the golem with brute strength. As he distracts the golem, Alice places a bomb on its chest, thus allowing them to blow it to smithereens. The aftermath of the explosion ends up waking Grim up, allowing Six to take a bit of a break. He tells them to get into battle, explaining he is unable to move because he used his full powers. As he prepares to retreat, Hina approaches him on the field, forcing him to talk with her. He begins by asking her what she eats to get such a busty figure, but this doesn't stop her. She sends in an attack, but Rose stops it somehow, causing Hina to tell her to back down. Snow then runs back to the group and shows her loaned-out sword completely shattered, causing her to panic. Hina then takes advantage of this confusion to ready an even stronger attack on the others. Thankfully, Grim is of use, so she stops Hina with her powers, causing Six to thank her. With this being enough time to regain his strength, he faces off against Hina, this time resolved. Hina realizes the situation she is in, so she offers him a job again, offering up her body in exchange for him joining his side. As she talks, his lust takes over himself, so he reaches out to join Hina, but right before he grabs her hand, Snow stops her. She ends up slicing off a gem on Hina, thus taking away her powers. With Hina missing her main power source, Six decides to take advantage of her, forcing her to make erotic poses to his liking. Because of her body, everyone stops fighting and decides to watch as Six abuses Hina. He places her into various poses, causing everyone to get horny. Even Snow enjoys the show, telling him to keep going. Eventually, Six feels bad about teasing her, so he places the gem in his pants, hoping she will come and take it from him. Like any girl she denies his request and runs away in a hurry, commanding the demons to run away with her. This leads to them winning the battle, causing for a celebration later that night. Later that night, Six gets Snow to walk his drunken self home, dumping him off as soon as he gets inside. As she walks back, she wonders what his deal is, telling herself she needs to kill him. When she says this, the sketchy strategist emerges and tells her he can help her with her mission. He entices her with various roles, but she eventually realizes she doesn't hate him that much. He then requests from her that Six is a spy, hoping to frame him. He also gives her some money, thinking she will fall for his ploy by bribing her. With this money, she decides to give up on being a knight, thinking the money is better. She then goes to tell Six of the strategist's plan, it being the least she can do. Upon getting outside of his room, she overhears him talking about lustful things he plans on doing with Snow. He also talks about his spy mission, making her realize he isn't just some wannabe spy. Episode 5. Upon hearing he is a spy, she urges him to leave the country, telling him she will spare his life for all he has done. Later that week, Snow goes back to her usual regimen, training the worthless soldiers as if they will ever achieve something. Once Six left, she was ranked back up to her previous position as the commander, making her wonder if it was the right decision. Although he left, Rose and Grim remain in the army, wondering where Six went. Little does she know Six is spending his time like usual, goofing around. Although they have made it to this place to relax, they still have the main mission at hand, needing to take over Snow's country. Despite it being his original goal for coming, Six wonders if it's the right decision, him being acquainted with the kingdom. He knows even with this, he has busty women waiting for him, so he tells Alice to prepare the teleportation circle to send in their agents. They then talk about the potential invasion of the demon army, knowing it will soon approach the kingdom. With this being said, it makes their job even easier, thinking they will just have to take down a few demons to gain control of the kingdom. Although this may be the case, Alice doesn't like the idea of someone else taking over their kingdom before them. To counter this, Six decides to head to the kingdom and act devious at night. He runs around harassing girls until he eventually spots an absolute dime. He does his usual tactic, forcing them onto the ground and showing off his zipper revealing trick. As he lowers the zipper, he starts to realize the girl isn't actually resisting. She talks about all the bad things he will do to her, shouting out in glee of his antics. As he continues his tricks, he realizes he isn't getting any evil points, so he wonders if she is actually enjoying it. He decides to up his game, but he soon gets approached by Snow and Rose. She asks him to show her what he is doing, but he gets embarrassed. He then sits down and tells Snow what he is doing in this kingdom. He explains that he is here to stop the Demon King from invading, claiming their kingdom is soon to be under attack. Rose then asks why he left the military in the first place, revealing Snow never revealed the reason. He tells her something fake to save face, but this only angers Snow more. She runs away enraged, but Six stops her, asking if she really doesn't want help fighting the Demon King. This causes her to whip out her sword, showing she means business, but he continues. Later that week, he gets adjusted to his usual life and goes into town to buy some food. When he tries to buy something, some kids recognize him as the Zipper Man, asking if he will pull down his zipper. More and more people begin talking about him until he realizes there are signs calling him a pervert all around town. He runs back to get comforted by Alice, but even she calls him names. With him racking up his evil points by harassing girls, she wonders what his issue is, wondering why he can't just do something really evil. They then begin their anticipation of the Demon King's army by placing an explosive on the trail they are suspected to walk along. The next day, when he arrives in town, he notices the townspeople acting strange, so he asks what's going on. She soon informs him that the Chosen One has gone missing, making them suspect he has died. With this information, they head back to talk about what could have happened. Alice informs him she already knows what happened, telling him the Chosen One got teleported away by one of the 4 generals. This makes him realize that the Demon King might really defeat the kingdom, so he considers rejoining the military. With this in mind, he talks with Alice about ways to defeat them easily. She informs him that they can just summon a nuke or something, but he wants to defeat them himself. Eventually, after discussing their plans, he decides to just run away in a panic. While he prepares his goods to escape, Grace enters his room, making him realize she is here to beg for his help. He denied her request, but she begins explaining the real reason they are here. She pulls out the parachute and asks if he is a spy from another country. He tells her he won't answer any questions, so she proclaims that she will be forced to torture him. Upon hearing this, he gets on his knees and begs for forgiveness, causing Grace to explain her reasoning for being here. She asks Six to watch over the soldiers and ensure that they don't all die, reminding him of all the time he spent with them. To hopefully entice him even more, she gets on her knees and begs him for his help. Although he is an evil man, Six is a sucker for cute girls, so he ends up relocating to the kingdom that night. As he talks about what to do, the girls in his harem approach, welcoming him back home. He takes advantage of this moment to flirt with Snow, but it only causes more problems. Later that evening, the battle finally gets close to starting, and the general gathers all of their soldiers in preparation for battle. While this happens, Heine commands the demons to charge towards the kingdom, proceeding with caution, expecting that Six will be among them. Then suddenly the golems begin falling to the ground, making them wonder what's going on. As the golems fall to the ground, Heine suddenly notices her pendant's energy nearby. Upon looking around, she finds it, but suspects this must be some kind of trap, so she demands for Six to reveal himself. After some time, she doesn't move, so she goes in to pick up the gem, thinking the coast is clear. Meanwhile, Six talks with the princess to get some brain before dying in battle. Unsurprisingly, he gets nowhere, causing him to focus back on the battle. Upon looking around, he notices Heine in a sorry state, making him wonder if his trap worked. Episode 6. The battle then begins, and the demon army runs full speed ahead at the kingdom's forces. As the battle goes on, Snow realizes that they stand no chance, so she is forced to rely on Grim. She asks her if she can do something, so she begins smirking weirdly, showing she has some sort of plan. As this happens, Heine's army breaks through the walls, demanding for Six to reveal himself. Before she can move forward, however, Grim uses her magic to break the feet of the golems, giving them an opening to attack. Heine doesn't let this slide, so she attacks Grim, but it gets blocked somehow. Grim then uses her magic to attack Heine, but it ends up doing nothing. With this attack not working, she proclaims that if she doesn't stand down, then she will curse her into not being able to wear a top. During this confusion, the bulky demon general emerges and knocks Rose down with a single blow. He then moves on to attacking Snow, but before he can strike, Rose gets back on her feet. He slaps him back with her fire magic and follows it by punching his stomach. Despite these attacks, she does little to no damage, causing him to become enraged. He demands Rose to stand down. He tells her to join his side, but she protests, showing she plans on staying on the human side. Snow then emerges to the battlefield and claims she will take down the beast. Once she says this, Grim joins the battle as well, asking for her to be her fight. Now with Rose and Grim both planning to risk their lives for her, she wonders if she is this useless. As the battle goes on, Snow realizes she isn't any help, so she runs away in a panic. Meanwhile, Six is seen attempting to kidnap the princess, thinking she will thank him if he saves her. She resists, but eventually he gets a hold of her and runs out of the kingdom with her in hand. Before he can escape, Snow emerges before him and asks for his help. She explains that Rose and Grim will both die unless he helps, offering her anything in exchange for his help. She talks about giving up money or a position in the military, but Six denies her request. He plans on waiting for her to say something else, thinking she will offer her body if he continues to deny her. Then, as he leaves, she begins begging him while crying, making his tendencies show. With a cute girl begging for his help, he is forced to help her, knowing it would mess with his ideals if he didn't. On top of this, she promises that he can fondle her as much as he wants if he accepts her request. With this being the first time he is actually allowed to do something lustfully, he realizes as an evil man, he can't accept this. Instead of taking his chance to do whatever he wants with her, he decides to just strip her down instead, causing her to get embarrassed. Now, with him gaining some evil points from these actions, he heads into battle, using a magic rifle to take down golems with a single shot. With each shot taking down a new demon, the tide of the battle begins to shift, making the kingdom think there is hope. Eventually, they catch on to this, so Heine rushes the castle, facing off against Six. While she is at the lead, the bulky demons also join the battle, thinking he can take Six with ease. Once Six displays his gun, however, he asks for her help, showing he isn't just some stupid meathead. Now, with the full demon army against them, Six orders his companions to help him out as well. To start the battle, he kicks around a couple demons using his sword, but eventually gets cornered. This forces Snow to jump in and help him, almost killing him in the process. After some time, Alice presents him with a chainsaw blade, allowing Six to slice through demons with ease. This makes the others scared, so she backs up, but because of Six's strength, they are unable to run. He then releases his limiter to give him full access to his power, making him sure that he will end up victorious. The bulky demon thinks it's all for show, but as he tries to rush him, Six displays he isn't a joke. He cuts the demon up like some cheese, making Heine realize she is messing with the wrong person. After using all of his strength and cutting everything in sight other than the babes he is left with, just Heine to fight. He explains that he will spare her for now, but in 1 month, he will be back to take her head. This forces the demon army to retreat once again, making Six the hero of the country. With everything finished, everybody leaves other than Snow and Six. She thanks him for his efforts and asks him if it's all right if they slept together in the future. He accepts her request, telling her that it can wait, showing he isn't as heartless as he lets on. This makes her happy, so she makes out with him, informing him she will give him her all later on in their relationship. After hearing this, he tells her that he doesn't like her like that, informing her he just wanted a one-night stand. This makes her enraged, having just confessed her feelings for him. Following these events, they gather the people around the cube, using it as a beacon of hope. While they get healed, Six meets with the girls, hoping that Snow isn't still mad at him. For some reason, she apologizes for getting the wrong idea, causing Six to devote himself to the kingdom now. To start his antics, he approaches the sketchy strategist, telling him he needs to be punished. He starts by taking off all of his hair, then goes for a walk with Alice. As he does, she tells him to check his evil point amount, showing he is in the negative. With this being the case, he is forced to stay in the kingdom for a bit longer, knowing if he heads back now, he will be punished. Alice, on the other hand, is tired of this broke kingdom, so she tells him she will be heading back to their land to report everything that has happened thus far.